Dr. Sad Umar Faruk.
Hello to you, my president, the freedom giant, the man behind all the successes, Isaac Bodu
Hello, Ambassador.
Babena. Forgive me if I didn't call the name properly. It's my pleasure to be with you today in our normal business, looking for a way forward for the African anatomy, sir.
I'm also humbled, Ambassador Dr. Sad Umar Faruk. This is not something I take for granted or lightly. I'm very humbled for the space you've given us all to be able to hear from you and to also to be able to get insight and in-depth knowledge about how we can progress forward and how indeed we can build upon a better Africa. I would once again say that I'm very appreciative that you take time off your busy schedule to always grant us the space for us to have such communions. So I'm humbled, and I think we'll begin the interview very soon, very shortly. So without your appendage, with your appendage, we'll begin if you say we should begin.
Please, let's go ahead, my president.
Okay,
it's my pleasure always.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. Okay, so hello, viewers. Welcome you to the One Africa Freedom Dialogue, which is an interview today between Dr. Sad Umar Faruk, who is our ambassador in African Voices International, and with Isaac Bodu. This interview is on the theme, the next regionalized Africa. Now, before we go on there, let's quickly introduce to you what we are, who we are, and what we do. We are African Voices International, and we are committed towards the promotion of democratic and political freedom in Africa. We work on our own philosophy called the structural anatomization process. And it's just based on the concept of the human anatomy. When you look at the human anatomy, we have the legs, we have the medulla oblongata, we have the hands, the eyes. They all play a quintessential role in the function of the human anatomy. So if you look at my nose, if my nose is blocked, I won't be able to breathe. That means that my nostrils play a quintessential role towards my life streaming, my life that streams for my daily function. And as a result, we all interrelate and interdepend upon each other. Every part of the human anatomy interrelates and interdepends towards the raw function of the whole anatomy. And that's how we use this to thrive on the global concept. In our countries, we expect every tribe to interrelate and interdepend upon themselves for the world function of the nation. So if in Nigeria, the Yorubas and the Igbos must all correlate and interdepend upon themselves for the world function of the nation. If you are in Ghana, the Evers, the Ashanti, the country not only for the Ashantis, it's for every tribe. So it's when they all interrelate and interdepend that indeed the country can thrive and be very phenomenal. Yes. When you go to Rwanda, when you look at the Tutsis, when you look at the Hutus, they are all world phenomenal. The country is not only for one section. So if we have one tribe that has very phenomenal people that can be able to do something phenomenal, maybe production of a car, you don't say he's from this tribe, so let's put him off. No, we all work together and collaborate and cooperate together for the world function of that country. And that's how indeed the country can thrive. And that's how we look at it also in Africa. We don't look at the populations and the geographical sizes of countries to determine how phenomenal they are. No. So if a country like Gambia, a country like Ghana is relatively small in terms of size to Nigeria, we don't say Ghana should be left out. No. But we include all of them based on how qualified they are in that field of experience to function. And that's how, in the same vein, also in Africa, we want the global content to indeed deem us fit as a very recognized region towards the development of the content and the world as a whole. And in this folder, we can be able to see that, yes, we are functioning as a global anatomy. So we just move on quickly to our interview today, as that was just brushing through on who we are, as we interview our ambassador. We have 5 ambassadors in the African Voice International. We have Ambassador Dr. Sad Umar Faruk from Nigeria. We have Ambassador Christopher Nsiang from the Ghana Anatomy. We have Ambassador Angela Akoto from the Ghana Anatomy. We also have Ambassador Professor Luzweti Enya Kisa from the Kenyan Anatomy. And we have Ambassador Samuel Bannon from the Ghanaian Anatomy. So we begin quickly with Ambassador Dr. Saad Umar Faruk today on ensuring the next regionalized Africa. So Ambassador Umar, we are humbled to have you once again. We don't take it lightly. We are humbled that you've given us this space for us to have such a phenomenal interview with you. And we say thank you for giving us the nod, Ambassador Dr. Saad Umar Faruk. Thank you, Ambassador.
It's my pleasure, always my president.
Thank you, Ambassador. So we quickly begin with the questions. And before we begin, we want to first of all bring in our central question to you, which is, how would you define the next centralized, regionalized Africa? How would you define, when we want to say you are building on the next or the new regionalized Africa, how would you define the term, the regionalized Africa? Ambassador Umar Faruk, thank you.
Well, my president, you know, I am somebody who mostly is a practical student or human being. The question you asked me, I think maybe I can define it in theory, because having it coming manifest, I think we have a very, very long way to go. Because when we talk about regionalizing Africa, that is to say, we are going to dismantle all the boundaries erected by our colonial masters. We are also going to see each other as brothers, irrespective of which part of the continent we come from. And also, we need to work hand in hand to ensure that the continent, the African continent, will flourish in a way that every citizen of the continent will be able to enjoy the life. Because one thing I realized about this life, my president, we are all on transit. So what is more important is the period we remain on transit, we ensure that we leave some positive footprints behind us. Because whosoever that is on transit, that means he may or he will get back to his destination anytime. So when we are talking about regionalized Africa, I think we really need to see that we work more, especially what the African Voices International is doing. I think you are working towards the right direction, because you ensure that you involve all the citizens of Africa, irrespective of the country they come from, at least to bring them or to bring us under one platform so that we can talk with one voice. I think with this one, definitely one day we may succeed. But as I tell you, in reality, we have some demarcations erected by the colonial masters, of which some of our leaders are very happy about it. They are very, very happy about it. But once we don't dismantle all those demarcations, I think we have a long way to go, my president.
Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Saad Umar Faruk. You've spoken about how we need to work hand in hand, how we need to eradicate all the boundaries, and how we need to ensure that indeed we collaborate and help each other as a continent. Now, looking at how, what you said, working hand in hand, eradicating all the boundaries, and indeed ensuring that everyone flourishes and works cooperatively. I want to ask Ambassador Umar Faruk, the African Union we have, which was transcended from the Organization of African Union by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in 1963, which has now been changed to African Union in 2002. Are they working in line with the objectives towards ensuring that indeed all boundaries are demarcated, that we all work hand in hand, that indeed we all flourish together, that indeed we all become, equitable and equal as a continent? Are they really working on these objectives, or is just a theoretical perspective but not a practical perspective? Ambassador Umar, thank you.
Thank you, my president. To start answering that question, first of all, let us look at the 25th of May, 1963, where our forefathers, the people that has Africa in mind, the people that fought with their blood, sweat, and everything to ensure that we are free. Let's start with the charter. They say, we, the heads of African states and governments, assembled in the city of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, convinced that it is inalienable right of all people to control their own destiny. Conscious of the fact that freedom, equality, justice, and dignity are essential objectives of the achievement of legitimate aspirations of the African people. You talk about the objectives. So I don't want to go further than that. I have mentioned the objectives. What are the objectives? Freedom, equality, justice, and dignity. So let me dwell on that. Let's look at the present situation in Africa. To be honest with you, we don't have total freedom. We don't have equality. We don't have justice. And we don't have dignity as an African today. So, but it doesn't mean that we cannot get them. The only way we are going to ensure that the objectives of these our forefathers, they are achievable. They are very, very achievable. But we have many rivers to cross. We have a lot of rivers to cross. Now, when we are talking about freedom, freedom means that as an African, I can go to Ghanaian anatomy, I can go to anywhere in the world and stand without being molested, ensuring that my rights, that freedom, my fundamental human right is given to me. I don't want to go further. In Africa today, it is very, very difficult for another African to go and move freely in other African countries, talk less of outside Africa. Now, when we talk of equality, we are talking about a situation whereby my president, myself, and every other African citizen is having equal rights. Equal rights. I can move freely to anywhere. If we have any privilege, it must be given to all of us without even fighting for it. When you talk about justice, the common man in Africa, I want to tell you, my president, don't have justice. The justice system in Africa, let me speak specifically about my country, Nigeria. The poor man has no any justice. You can see a common man, maybe because of hunger, will go and steal a tuber of yam. He will be sent to jail for stealing that tuber of yam. But those in the government, you will have them looting the treasury of the government on daily basis. And they are still moving freely. So, if we talk about the objectives as enshrined under the African Union Charter in May 1963, which was laid by our founding fathers like Amadou Ahidjo, Kwame Nkrumah, Ahmed Bembala, David Dako, and the rest of them, Tafawa Balewa. I want in my president, I want to let you know, if you can have a picture of those our forefathers, you hardly see any of them dressed in any Western clothes. Hardly. Their Pan-Africanism is from the blood. That is the kind of mindset we are lacking today. I don't know how managed we lost it. I don't know how we lost it. But honestly speaking, those objectives, I can't say all, because in recent time, I can say Muammar Gaddafi, the late Muammar Gaddafi came with the mind of continuing with the objectives laid down by our forefathers along the line. Even now, we have very few African leaders who are thinking towards getting those objectives. Now, my president, we have a very long way to go to achieve those objectives, as I mentioned: freedom, equality, justice, and dignity for African citizens.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Umar. You've spoken about the main central paradigms that need to be put in place: freedom, justice, equality, and dignity. And these all are centralized towards indeed ensuring that humans are able to live the best of their lives. You've spoken about how there is a contrast between what they put in place and what is happening now, particularly between the elites and the ordinary people. Now, it should be clear to everyone who is listening that indeed the objectives enshrined under the charter are to ensure that indeed whoever is wherever in any geographical location in Africa must be able to live peacefully. However, there could be certain contradictions. Now, Ambassador Umar, please listen to what you are saying. Would you say that the African man, the ordinary African man's identity has been dissolved? His identity of having a dignified personality, of working in integrity, of seeing justice prevail, of seeing equality prevail wherever he is, in judicial matters, in his social life, has it been dissolved? And can we attest neo-colonial sentiment to this? Ambassador Umar, thank you.
Thank you, my president. The question of African identity is basically an ontological question of the reality of Africa come the being of an African. The series of infiltration and appraisals by foreign elements tend to plunge the continent into crisis of identity. We allow them, we welcome them, we give them all the opportunities. The problem of African identity consists of the reality that smacks of the existential condition of which Africans have been plunged after the experiences of the slave trade, colonialism, and apartheid. This is the period when the African culture has been infiltrated and diluted, consequently, coerce them out of their identity. For example, my president, today, an African man will wear a suit and tie to go to church. He's a great man, yes. He's a very, very great man for wearing suit and tie. And me and you know that suit and tie has no place in the African man identity. That's the reality. Some people will look at it from the angle of development. Well, that is their own opinion. I will not stop them. But borrowing other people's culture to replace your identity, I think it is an insult that we really need to wake up and see that we change the situation. Africa has undergone a long historic turmoil from its tradition to the tradition of the non-African peoples and cultures through its conquest by the white powers using the slave trade, colonialization, Islamism, Christianization, and appetite, followed by liberation and neo-colonialism. You see, all these factors I mentioned are things that have stolen our identity as African people. As Africa continues to struggle within the pool of developmental advancement and global self-assertion, the problem of African identity will continue to engage the concerned African anatomy of the, more especially the African Voices International, just like what we are doing now, in order to fill up the gap that one day we will get to that place. Because one good thing about the African Voices International is they are trying by all to ensure that those under their umbrella have been informed. Because if you are informed, definitely your problem is half solved. The nature-culture approach remains the reaffirmation of African ontological status and maintains that the product of African nature is the African culture, which is an institutional expression of African identity. Because the moment we drop our culture, we drop our identity. Because if you look at my president, almost all Africans will want to be like a white man, want to be like the Arab man, want to be like the Asian man, undermining his own culture because we are replacing our culture with borrowed culture from outside the African. So that is where we are missing our identity. You discover that in Africa today, just go around on your street today, take a census of the people you meet. Tell me now, how many will you see wearing African attire to ensure that their identity is still maintained? This one, I just give you, anytime you are walking around the streets, please help me, and even all the listeners, those that will listen, please help me and do this census. Then you will see where the problem of African identity lies. More especially this generation. This generation, I can say maybe it's parental failure, or is I don't really understand, but the truth about it, we have sold our identity as African, my president. So the only thing we need to do is we have to have a rethink, look inward to see how we can allow the wish of our forefathers to come to reality. If you have the opportunity to get pictures of those our forefathers in those days, Kwame Nkrumah, Tafawa Balewa, Ahmadu Ahijo, and the rest of them, you hardly see any one of them on suit. Some follow the Agbada, Kwame Nkrumah wear his African. So I don't know. That is the main problem of losing our African identity. Today, in Africa, if we are having meeting of African heads of states, I want to assure you that about 60% of them will come out with borrowed identity. Thank you, my president.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Umar. Viewers, all the things you can clearly tell that to build a formidable entity, an identity is very crucial. To build a very crucial progression of whatever vision, an identity is very crucial. I want to ask Ambassador Umar. So as our ambassador, who reflects the vision of African Voice International, through which we look at who is a mentor, who is a guide, who is a reflection of the kind of pace test that we want to see at Freedom Giants the masterpieces, the change makers, the game changers, analyzing the identical flow of Africans. What is the problem? What is making us have a misplaced identity? And can things be changed? Can things be better off? Can things progress? Can things turn around? And can things have a different picture from the kind of misplaced orientation we are having in terms of we not even having an identity, which makes things worse for us? Can things turn around? And what are the solutions towards reinforcing a very entrenched identity for the way forward? And also building the anatomy that we want so that we can't be indeed intimidated by any foreign entity. Thank you, Ambassador Umar.
Yes, my president, it's achievable. Just all we need is the change of mindset, because the mindset this generation is having, maybe a sort of formatting their brain to inculcate the love for their identity as Africans. Because if you look at our youth today, who are supposed to be the strength of Africa, who are supposed to be the pride of Africa, when it comes to the issue of identity, I think nothing to write home about. So it can be achieved by having sensitization, just like what we are doing now. From time to time, anywhere we have opportunity, we sensitize them, tell them the importance of maintaining their identity as Africans, irrespective of the country they come from, and so that they can have a change of mindset. Because if they don't have that change of mindset, it will be very, very difficult to achieve, my president. So we keep on doing what we are doing. We keep on talking. We keep on sensitizing people. We keep on drawing their attention. We keep on telling them the implications. We keep on, okay, now, an average African now, in Nigeria, we call it Jakpa. What Jakpa means, leaving your country to Europe. That is the mindset. Why? Because the leadership have failed. I'm talking of Nigeria, and I believe it's the same thing applicable to other African countries also. Because I was privileged to go to Germany in 2008. I saw the number of Africans I saw there. I was not happy with the life they were living, my president. For me, I said it. I'm entitled to my opinion. I would rather die here than to go and live the life I saw some of them living there. Most of them that live, if you see me, I leave the shores of Africa to anywhere. I am going there officially to go and do whatsoever the duty I'm supposed to perform and come back. But I will not go and live in that place. So the leadership in Africa has failed us. So we also have to hold our leadership accountable. We have to keep on talking. We have to, okay, now, the youth we are talking about, my president. When I sat down one day during our Nigerian last election, I saw the number of people who queued to vote. I realized that about 80 to 90% of them are youth. And when I come to see the people they are electing, I became so weak because they are old cargos. Let me use this. They go to line up and elect old cargos. Those who don't have anything any longer to offer. So you can see recently, I think there are some radical changes recently in some of the African countries where the young people are coming in and you are seeing the impact they are making. See the Senegal guy, see the Domboya, and the rest of them. See the impact they are making. Very energetic. They have everything upstairs. So this mindset of youth going to queue to put people who have nothing to offer must also be changed. It will also help us to maintain our identity, my president.
Okay, Ambassador, you've highlighted a processional lead through which we must indeed picture our lenses in terms of how we think towards building the Africa we want. I want to chip this in and ask you, looking at AU's policies, we have policies like silencing their guns, meant to eschew terrorism, meant to eschew hard power, building of a single telecommunications network, the African Free Continental Trade Area, and all of these things. Looking at all of these that have taken place, is there an equilibrium meant to ensure an equal centralized system of peace and freedom between adults and youth, between those in political offices and those who are down there trying to now make an ends meet? Is it really working? How are these policies being enshrined? How are they in terms of how they are being processed? Is it really causing the kind of order that we want? Is it being implemented in the right way? And what is the way forward as far as we are concerned towards the kind of anatomy we want to build? Because you know that Ambassador Umar want to build an anatomy whereby, because of phenomenal policies that we build, we can all be able to cooperate and interpret upon each other for a systematic flow of freedom. But I want to kindly ask you, in terms of assessing all these policies, are they implemented in the right way? And what is the way forward for us, Ambassador Omar? Thank you.
Well, my president, as I said earlier, I don't believe in impossibilities in life. The most important factor is for you to identify what you want. You now plan on how to achieve it. Because if you really want to achieve anything, yes, it's possible. But you have to start from somewhere. When you talk about silencing the... Yes, we all want to silence the gun. But before then, let us answer this question, this empirical question. Who are behind those guns? Because if we don't identify who are behind those guns, then we'll find it very, very difficult to silence them. You know, I told you I'm a practical person. In Africa, in our culture, previous cultures, guns are alien to us. In those days, when you see a gun in Africa, it's only meant for the military. Only. Apart from the local guns that were used by some hunters. That was on the later aspect of it. But in the earlier aspect, you hardly see any other individual having or moving around with a gun. But who are behind those guns? The people that are behind those guns are those the same people who have interest in our resources. They send the guns for us to kill ourselves. And we foolishly accept it. And we are doing it, my president. Painfully, we are doing it. Why can't we one day sit down as a continent, say, these people that are bringing guns to us, we no longer need them. Let's find a way of doing away with those guns. But the present situation, my president, the reality in most of the African countries today, individuals, criminals, are moving around with guns. So issue of silencing gun in Africa, I'm not sure we have started working towards that. The only way we can start, maybe by what we are doing now, sensitizing people. But in reality, the practical aspect of it, nothing has been done. Because, you see, those Western world, the most unfortunate thing is they have their stooges within us. Some of them are our leaders, whom they use, and who, through them, they send those guns to us, create confusion within communities. The communities will be busy fighting. The next thing they say they are bringing a UN peacekeeping mission. And the painful aspect, before coming to that place, they have already identified what they wanted. The area they saw the resources. That is where they will go and build their headquarters. Funny enough, my president, it will interest you to know that in any of these African countries where we have the UN mission offices, black man is not allowed to go inside that compound. Yes. Or the indigene of that country is not allowed to go into the place. Why? Because of what they are doing behind the scene. So issue of silencing guns, my president, we really have a long way to go, because if you look at in 2017, the Assembly of the Union adopted a strategic document known as AU Master Roadmap of practical steps to silencing the guns in Africa by 2020. My president, we are in 2024. Has any gun been silenced since then? No. Since the adoption of the Master Roadmap, the AU Peace and Security Council has led efforts in implementation of this collaborative efforts with the African Union member states, regional economic communities, regional mechanisms, the African Union Commission, the UN itself, African institutions and organizations, CSO partners. So they are all working with these people. But the Assembly of the Union commends the Peace and Security Council for its effort in implementing the decision. Take note, though, it's only the decision, but the action has never even been started. Because if you look at some other countries where they say there's disarmament, where they encourage people to bring their guns, that same guns that they brought, they are still going to be redistributed to other people, my president. So painfully, issue of silencing gun also remain in theory. We have it, the master plan, the AU master plan on how to silence it on the African soil. But the orientation concept note outlines actions and activities towards the implementation of the master roadmap of the practical step to silence the guns in Africa, in line with the decision for the Peace and Security Council, Assembly of the UN, including proposed strategic and specific activities to be implemented in the year 2020. So if those things have been implemented, my president, by now, we are in 2024, we are not supposed to have any gun. At least guns must be silent. But me and you know that up to now, we are still having... Talking about the issue of silencing the gun, of which I told you, in reality, there is nothing like silencing the gun as far as Africa is concerned. But we have theories, we have charters, we have some papers, good written policies in silencing the gun. Because the problem behind silencing this gun is they have a lot of selfish gains they are getting with those guns. Because some of those people, they supply those guns to those criminal elements within Africa to come and torment the remaining people. Because if you look at the details, when the aim of strategic priority areas like conflict prevention, which include early warning system, preventing diplomacy, crisis and conflict management, including AS and mediation, so post-conflict reconstruction issues such as illegal flows of small arms, disarmament, counterterrorism, illicit financial flows, as well as transnational organized crime and cybercrime, and coordination and partnership. In addition, cross-cutting issues are covered by that roadmap. But very fine policy, well documented. It covered all areas that is of implementation, my president. So the guns, as far as I'm concerned, the guns are still loud and clear as far as I'm concerned in the African continent. So the issue of silencing the gun will remain in paper, on the paper. It just remains on the paper, theoretical, but in reality, the guns are still loud and clear. Thank you, my president.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Umar. Ambassador Umar, you've spoken and you've engulfed everything, speaking about how most of the policies are actually on paper and not pragmatically oriented. And this is very, 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 very just surprising to us all. I'm saying this because we elect people to be on the helm of affairs, to take care of us, to rule the state for us, to rule the continent for us, and to place us on a better platform in the global level. Yet we are undermined, we are humiliated, we are exploited. They allow us to be exploited, to take care of, to take use of our resources, to use these same guns which are supposed to defend us to rather bring us down. And it's so amazing, Ambassador Umar. I'm really into this and I'm really smiling because you see people who are put on the helm of affairs to represent us, yet they are rather killing us. They are rather killing us. You see people who are meant to, in our previous conversations, that you said, and you spoke about tenets of the AU, such as integrity, dignity, freedom and justice, who are meant to ensure freedom and justice, yet they try to cause a rivalry between the people that are supposed to represent and also between the international partnership platform. So when we are supposed to go on a negotiation level for peace to prevail, we're rather seen as rivals, and we're rather extradited. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing. We are the ones who are killing ourselves because we don't have leaders who are really being pragmatic. They're just on paper, but they are there just speaking and just rather causing a retrogression. And it's so shameful. It's so embarrassing when we've sacrificed our lives to put people on their shelves, and yet they disgrace us. And we have other youths and other people who are around who think that no, we do not have the right senses, we do not have the right minds to have voted black people into place, but we have the right minds to do so. But they're rather misdefining us through the kind of negotiations they go into place. It's so shameful, and we are very humble that we have Ambassador Umar. Ambassador Umar, I want to ask this question that right now with what has happened, silencing the guns, yet we are rather killing ourselves. We have leaders who are willing to ensure that there is war in other nations. They go straight to say that when we use hard power in other nations, we have ECOWAS, we have who are just doing and misbehaving anyhow, and just misbehaving in a way that is so contradicts the kind of tenets we want to see. Right now, we have most of about 98% of African countries, all peripheral countries. What is the way forward for this new revolution? What's a new way forward for this new revolution? And we are towards ensure that indeed we can be able to create forth our new center whereby Africa can also be seen as a regionalized system, just like China and just like I don't want to even mention America, who when they see that indeed there is any state trying to also thrive equally on their level, they do whatever they want to do to bring them down. What can we do to ensure Africa thrives equally, not only South Africa, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, but every other country, like even the Gambia, like DR Congo, like Sudan and South Sudan, and war hit country. How can we say that they will all thrive and be on the same note and be a core entity in global function so that we can indeed work as a global anatomy? Ambassador Umar, thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, my president. You have said it all. You see, those same people, the only way I still think the way forward, because these same people will still come for elections. Look at recently what this man, okay, if I remember the name, the African president that was not even healthy enough to manage himself. The one they overthrew recently. So what I'm trying to say is the way forward, my president, is like what African Voices International is doing. Let's keep on sensitizing our youth so that, because they have the majority votes in those countries working. And I think it is high time for them to start voting for youth. Let them stop voting the old. The youth always vote the old. It's very, very shameful. If you look at on election day, even the old don't go there to vote for their mates. They remain at home. If you check the queue, 85 to 90% are the youth voting for the old people. So let's change that trend. Let's change that trend in those countries where youth get engaged. Let them get involved in this politics. You cannot run away from politics, my president, because politics is everywhere. In your house, there's politics. In your church, there's politics. In my mosque, there's politics. Anywhere you have two or more people, there's politics. So politics is not something that you can run away from. So let's encourage the youth so that the youth will vote for the youth. Look at those countries we are having youth as heads of states. Are you not proud of them, my president? I am very, very proud of them.
I'm very proud, Ambassador.
I want to let you know I am very, very proud. Look at the Senegal president recently. He came back, he said, doesn't want all those people leaving their office, coming to airport to wait for him. For what? All those people will leave government work, government business to come and be standing. Are they going to carry him on the head? No. So those are the type of people we are looking for. Gradually, by the time we get them, maybe about 3%, let's say 3/4 of our president that are within that age limit, my president, you will remember that I said it. We are going to get there. But if not so, I'm Paul Biya of Cameroon, a stooge president that will be carried along to anywhere he's going. It's not the best. It's an insult. We are even insulting ourselves. And do you know the painful thing, my president? It is not the wish of the Cameroonian. Oh. That is where the problem lies. The problem is the interest of the Western world. Okay, my president, there's this issue I still want to. The whole of Africa, see how our identity again. Say Anglophone and Francophone. Anglophone and Francophone Africans. As far as I'm concerned, it is stealing our identity. Like what you said earlier, like in Ghana, Nigeria, let's look for one language that will be our official language apart from English. English is not our language. See, now it's English we are using now. Why? Because that is what they gave to us. And painfully, we have accepted. Now, when my son writes his secondary school, I'll ask, I hope you pass English language. I hope you pass English language because of what they have laid down for us. So let's try to change this narrative. English is not their language, my president. It's not my language. No, it is the language of any African citizen. Because no any African citizen today will come out and tell me that his native language is English. No, we have our native language. By time, we start thinking towards having a language that will declare as official language for Africa, the same currency, dismantle all those boundaries erected, as I said earlier, then let's see if our youth will grow with this mindset. Definitely, you will see the changes we are talking about, my president.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Umar. In as much as what you said, we still have certain hindrances that day in, day out keep some of our leaders trying to keep authority and power with themselves. With they trying to be individualistic rather than trying to ensure a pluralistic democracy. They want to ensure that they are the ones to which power is vested in them alone. And they want to exhibit it and exhibit their arrogance. It's very, very sad that an ambassador. How can we be able to address such leaders who are thinking about their status and not thinking about the liberation of the people? Because we just like, for example, in Nigeria, we have Innocent Motors, and we have Kantanka in Ghana, we have Kira, other where in Uganda, in Kenya, we have Leo Key in Morocco. We have all these ones who are thriving, but yet still they don't have any comparative advantage, simply because we have leaders who feel that their legacy would be silenced if we begin to see such industrial revolutions. What can we do and what can we put in place to ensure that indeed there is a radical shift that ensures that indeed there is an equilibrium everywhere? Because it's very sad in an ambassador, because people are there to do things. People are there with so much innovation to do things. But these leaders feel that that is an impediment upon their legacy. They want to ensure they are the only ones who have that legacy, so that when they pass on, they will know that, yes, this was so, so, and so. Whilst our roads are still untarred, how can we address such issues? Because Ambassador Umar, I mean, you are one of our reflections, seeing how you are so much committed towards the transformation of the youth every time, every now and then. How can we have people being like you? How can we have people sacrificing like you? How can we have people that when they get to the top, when they become doctors, when they become so, so, and so, they don't become out of their heads, but they still comply towards the standards for the liberation that we have. I was there one day, and one of our freedom giants was like, I really love Ambassador Dr. Sad Umar Faruk. I've been following every time there was a quote by him. I really follow it. I was like, wow, that's very phenomenal. How can we have people how can we keep our leaders restructuring their minds, reorienting their minds to be on the right path? Because the youth are suffering, Ambassador Umar. The youth are suffering, and if things do not change, I was listening to one just a recent journal, and the speaker there was saying that the youths are going to be worse off than this generation because they are learning from the old who are misdefining and misinterpreting the ways. So how can we address our leaders to walk in the right direction? Ambassador Umar, thank you very much.
Well, my president, you know, I always know from the point blank. The only way out is to eliminate them. There is no way because, first and foremost, as I said earlier, there are stooges. You know, a stooge is someone who is placed somewhere by somebody, and he is going to dictate for him on how to act, how to behave. A person have no any saying of his own, and that is unfortunately that is the reflection of our African leaders, the old people. So the only way, an honest way, is to eliminate them, my dear brother, my president. The only way is to eliminate them because the truth about it is, once you come now, for example, you as the president of African Voices International, maybe you confront your president in order, you now let him know that the youth are suffering. This is what is need to be done. Well, you may be lucky to go home. If you are not lucky, you may end up in jail if they don't even eliminate you totally on the surface of the earth. Because that is the truth. That is what is happening. So all we need to do is to eliminate them. Elimination does not mean killing them, but let's remove them from those positions. Doesn't mean if he refused to be removed by this way, let's look for another way of elimination. But that is the only, we just need to remove them, my president. We need to remove them from that point of leadership because they are not representing us well. The one painful thing is they are not even doing it for their own selfish interest. Country, you have to go to London so that they go and they go there and whether baptize you before you become a president of a certain African country. Is it not an insult? We are insulting ourselves. So the only way, my president, let the youth open their eyes, because these youth, why you see I'm so passionate about them, they are a pride. China used their youth to turn around their economy because even after being colonized, refused to give up his identity. He refused. Stubbornly, they maintained their identity, number one. Number two, China make use of their youthful resources to turn around their economy. In China, for example, today, from kindergarten, a child will have something. You are given opportunity to do something from kindergarten. Recently, I watched a video of one kindergarten in China. They cook for themselves. That is to say, they are teaching them to be independent at that early age of 2, 3. My president, 2, 3, 4 years. If a child at the age of 2, 3 can be able to cook for him or herself, are you not giving that person authority to be independent anywhere he finds himself?
Yes,
so that is what we are lacking here in Africa. We also have parental failure. I will say it. Because if you don't hold yourself responsible, you cannot be able to change. I am involved because what our parents did not give to us, we are all trying to give to our children. You don't want your child to suffer. You don't want your child to suffer. None of us have any authority over the life of these children. It is God Almighty who created them, and He created them through us. So it's just, we are just like vehicle for them to they use us now to live their life. So teach them the right thing. How can you now have a child who start from primary school, no handwork, secondary school, no handwork, up to university, a graduate is looking for a white collar job? So those are the areas. So I'm challenging the youth also, because you made mention of mentorship. Yes, one thing I discovered about teaching my president is you can only teach somebody who is willing to learn. I don't know whether you get this point. You can only teach somebody who is willing to learn. You cannot force somebody to learn. And a lot of them are not willing to learn. They are after fast money. They call it, get name that they call it, whether Yahoo Plus, Yahoo Plus Plus. You understand?
Yes,
That entails a young man sitting in the comfort of a room or anywhere with a laptop, with AC on, now trying to steal from people. Is it the kind of mindset the youth we have that will become something positive? No way. Until all those mindset is being changed, that is when we are going to get to our promised land. Mentorship, as I said, if you remember, I told you one day I just sat down and think, I said, all those things I know, if I don't share them with people, the moment I die, my children will not inherit it. So that is why sometimes if an idea come up, I will record it somewhere. And if I have audience, I don't mind. Sometimes you see me 247 online. An idea just drop in my head. Instead of me allowing it till in the morning, I will drop it somewhere for other people to get from it. So if being a mentor is my way of life, and I said earlier, if the whole world is doing the wrong thing, I would rather stand alone. I maintain that my president. They say if you can't beat them, you join them. I swear I will not join them. No matter what, I will not join them. I will keep on doing what I will do so that posterity will judge me. You know, you remember earlier I mentioned that we are on transit. So I want to, I'm gone. Today we are proudly talking about our Pan-African fathers, Kwame Nkrumah, because they sacrificed all they had so that we, by their dream now, by now, assuming you wake them in the grave, they will not expect to see us where we are today. But unfortunately, along the line, we did not help issues. So those type of leaders you are talking about, my president, is elimination. Removing them from authority. Let us get vibrant young men who have all it takes to change the narrative. If not so, it's the same thing that will keep on happening. They have a mandate from their leaders, of which they have to fulfill that mandate. If not so, leadership is all about playing your role, making your contributions, and allow someone else to continue. But in an African leaders, they want to rule till their children or their wives will continue. Why? Because they have criminal criminal things to cover. Because one thing, if you are not straightforward, you always want to cover your deeds. So that is the main reason why. It's not that the whole country, nobody is capable enough to rule the country. No, because of the atrocities they committed, they need their own either son or wife. God will help us. We eliminate them, then we will have the changes. And for the youth, please have a rethink. Forget about press. They say press. They call them press. Say this guy na press be his work. When you hear they say press, that is is a thief. Oh. Guys, he is using computer to steal from people. They now give you the name, say press. Because I had one day, they say press. I say, what is press? Because I always like to learn. I don't want to hear something that I don't know the meaning. They say, nah, Yahoo, they do. So all these things are mindset that are being imported to our children. It's not our identity. It's not part of the identity of the African man like this. So let's see how we can eliminate them, either through ballot papers or otherwise. But the most important thing, let's remove them from those leadership positions. Let us have people who will come and implement those beautiful policies that are on paper that they fail to implement, so that it will make Africa great, African continent great again, my president.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Umar. We've all heard from him and from these last words he spoke about we eliminating them. Does not insinuate we killing them, but we taking them from office. I mean, whenever anyone tries to go the other way as not going towards the right direction, he definitely has an intentional reason for what he or she is doing. When our leaders are put in place and are misrepresenting us on countless times, there's no way from what we've learned from Ambassador Woman today, who has much experience, there's no way that they will ever think of, into quotes, repenting. They have their agenda, and it's either we eliminate them or we see our suffering, or we see our downfall, we see our annihilation. So we have to stand tall and see that they are taken out of power. We have to be relentless. We can remember about in our year of survival, where the moves of one was relentlessness. We have to be relentless in standing for what is right, even if it's, as Ambassador Omar said, even he doesn't care if he has to be alone in fighting for a cause. So we have to make sure that we eliminate all those who are against the cause of freedom, and we must take a strong stand in this position. Ambassador Omar, we want you to, given your last words, it could be a 5 minute word, a 10 minute word, it could be a 2 minute word, whichever we want you to give us your last words to everyone listening on the way ahead towards indeed building a regionalized Africa, sustaining the identity of the African man, the African youth, the African adult, even who is trying to stand tall, just like as you are doing, but does not have any encouragement to stand tall to fight for the cause of freedom in this continent, Africa. Your last words, Ambassador, towards rebuilding the African anatomy and we standing tall for the change we want to see, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, my president. First and foremost, when you talk about encouragement, if you are lucky to have someone that will encourage you, fine. If you don't, please don't fail to encourage yourself. I encourage myself all through in life. Lucky. Some are lucky to have somebody that will say, put your leg here, put your right here, put your this here. That is when you are like lucky. Some of us are not lucky enough. So the most important thing is, I'm calling on all the African freedom giants to ensure that we encourage ourselves. That is number one. Number two, let us delete anything to do with failure. Somebody will say, bros, this thing will not work. My president, I don't believe. I don't believe in somebody telling me something that I want to do will not work. No. Rather, I will be there him, it will not work. That is after trying, after doing all I could, and it did not work. I will now come and tell you, that thing did not work. We have a lot of people that discourages people. You don't give up. You have your life, more especially as a freedom giant. Live your life. Don't allow somebody to come and tell you that it will not work. How? And you want to believe him? No. So all freedom giants should delete that idea of it will not work. Let's go try. When it did not work, I can authoritatively tell you, my president, I have put in all my effort and it has telling me. That is another area. Then the third area is, if I look at the percentage of the African freedom giants, they are the younger ones. That mindset of that the Europe or the Western world is better than your country, let's remove it, please. Let's remove that aspect, because a lot of us, you know why? Because of failure in leadership. So instead of, let us use what I advised earlier. Let's remove them. It is, me, I always say, it's my right. I'm an African. It's not by election. I didn't become an African by election. No, it is through divine arrangement beyond my understanding. So I will guide it jealously. Nobody, I say nobody will make me to live here unless I am willing to. The most important thing is we keep on, you go here, I will arrange myself on this side. You go there, I arrange myself on this side. We keep on moving. Because the same place, people are complaining, are dying, are saying that things are not working well. What is your own effort? What is your own contribution as an individual? Is it talking? Is it condemning? Is it complaining? No. We should stop complaining, my president. Let us sit down. If all the African giants, I challenge all, let us sit down, look your own area of responsibility in your own place, identify one single thing, make effort to change that thing, make effort, even if you are going to fail, make that effort to change it. Then if it doesn't work, you can do your thumbs up. Yes, I have tried, I have failed. And you know one good thing about failure, my president, is you have experience. It doesn't mean that is the end. So by the time you get up, there is this tendency that you are not going to fail because of the experience of what causes your failure in the initial stage. You will not allow such thing to happen to you again. So don't be afraid to fail. The only thing I discourage people is from psychologically, this thing will not work. No, please make effort first, go there. Then our youth, them, in a situation where we, the parents, fail, please hold us responsible, make the changes you want, because I tell people say death has no day. I'm over 60 years, my president. So I always say that, this date is any moment from now. I know I'm expecting it. So don't allow people like us that are about to go to keep on dictating for you. Make the changes you need so that you can be able to enjoy your stay on this earth. Once you ensure that you make your contribution, you know, I told you, observe all these things I am saying, and any other person that is listening to me, any country within Africa where they do election, you will know that actually those people that are there, they are not there to ensure that they want your happiness. You have to create your own happiness by yourself, my president. You have to create your happiness by yourself. So don't allow anybody, when I mean anybody, don't allow anybody to dictate for you on how to maintain your happiness. That folder, happiness, God has embedded it on each individual. So ensure that you guide it. Don't allow anybody to have control over it. But definitely, as we are talking, I believe even if not now, we will get there one day, my president.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Umar Faruk. We are very humbled for this interview. This is something that we believe that is going to indeed intrigue the youth and everyone who listens to this to stand tall, to move forward, to be radical, and indeed cause the change they need to cause. We are very much humbled for this interview given us today, Ambassador Umar, and we are once again appreciative that we have such a conversation with the highest rank in African Voice International. Is not taken for lightly. We are humbled to Ambassador Dr. Umar Faruk, and I want to say thank you for this. And we know that everyone who has listened to this today will take note and due cognizance of what they've learned, put it into practice for the way forward, for the kind of Africa we want to build. So we're humbled once again, Ambassador Umar, and we say thank you for the conversation. African Voice National Freedom in Africa. Thank you, Ambassador Umar Faruk.